Hello students, welcome to class 12 physics class. Today we discuss another one or today we started a new chapter in second part, that is semiconductor device or semiconductor electronics. In this chapter mainly we studied the conduction of electricity in solids. The solids also, that some types also be there, mainly the solid here, that is a crystalline solid. So this is a one branch of a physics. This branch is called electronics. This branch of physics is called electronics. Okay. So as for the new syllabus, the maximum parts are deleted from this chapter. As earlier the transistor also deleted and new syllabus xenon diode also deleted. So little bit part only here. So let's start with the first introduction of a semiconductor. In current electricity, we studied the three types: conductor, semiconductor, and the insulator. Conductor easily, the current easily passes through the that conductor. Insulator does not allow, and semiconductor lies in between conductor and the semiconductor. Okay, conductor and the insulator. That means this semiconductor sometimes behaves as a conductor, sometimes behaves as a insulator under some certain conditions. That's why this type of solids are called semiconductor device or semiconductor. So let's start first the main two categories of a solid. We know that there are, in your chemistry also you studied this better, you understand in chemistry, it is better. Just here little bit concept I will share with you. Mainly the solids are divided in two categories. One is a crystalline, another one is a amorphous. Crystalline solid means where the atomic level or the atoms of the solids are arranged properly in a proper way. It looks like a very good, whenever in your home, if the everything is arranged properly, then it looks very good. Like same concept here also, the atoms of the crystalline solid are arranged in a regular pattern as shown in this figure. Okay, that type of solids are called crystalline solid, and this pattern, this arranged properly in a regular pattern one by one, this pattern is called lattice. That's why I told you that you studied this one in chemistry. And here you see that one dotted line over there, I will circle it with a dotted. So it is just one part of the crystalline solid. It looks like a cube. So in this figure you see that we can divide this crystal in many cubes. One, then next second number, third number, fourth number. So there are many small cubes are there, or in here we can say that these are the very small cells. With that cells, this total crystal of that solid is what consists. So this small part, the smallest design of any lattice, this is called unit cell. This is called unit cell. Using this unit cells, a crystal is formed. Okay, so best example is a diamond, table salt. These are the crystalline solid. Amorphous solid, just opposite to the crystalline solid. When the solids atoms are arranged randomly or irregular pattern, no pattern is there, that is called amorphous solid. This crystalline solid, amorphous solid is not included in your syllabus because here we discuss the semiconductor. That's why we introduce this types of solid. So semiconductor mainly categorized in this crystalline solid. So here we discuss about the crystalline solid. So for making the semiconductors, we use this crystalline solid where the atoms are arranged properly. Amorphous example is gel, polymer, glass, etc. Okay. So mainly here in this chapter we use this crystalline solid structure, this crystal structure. This diagram is a one piece of a crystal, not a total crystal or the whole crystal. That one side, one face, one piece of the crystal. Okay. So in this chapter, the semiconductor, for making semiconductor, we use this type of solid, crystalline solid, where the atoms are properly arranged. Another one, we from the lower classes also we studied that solids are three types on the basis of their electrical conductivity, and these types are conductor, insulator, and semiconductor. We know that conductor is conduct easily. Okay. Insulator is does not allow the electricity easily passes through the substance or that matter. Semiconductor lies in between conductor and the insulator. Okay. So this is the one piece of a crystal, and this dotted one is a unit cell. Dotted one, circle one, that is a unit cell. Using there are many unit cell in this figure. You see that there are many unit cell. So combine this unit cell is form a crystal structure. Okay. As we know that the resistivity of the conductor is the range of 10 to the power minus 8 ohm meter to 10 to the power minus 6 ohm meter, and for the insulator has a high resistivity, because insulator has a high resistance also, that is more than 10 to the power 4 ohm meter. So the resistivity of a semiconductor lies in between the conductor and semiconductor. So semiconductor is a material that behaves like an insulator but shows conductivity depending upon the surrounding and the situation, some conditions over there. So whenever that substances reach that condition, they conduct electricity. So that time that semiconductor materials behaves as a conductor, but normally these semiconductor materials are insulator. And the surrounding situation means they depends upon the temperature. As we know that in case of a conductor, as we increase the temperature, resistance also increases. But in case of a semiconductor, just opposite. Whenever we increase the temperature, its conductivity increases. In case of a conductor conductivity decreases, but in case of a semiconductor, conductivity increases. That means resistance decreases. Okay, just opposite to the conductor. Semiconductor lies between the conductor and the insulator, that means metal and the non-metals. So its resistivity also lies between the conductor and the insulator, that is in between 10 to the power minus 6 ohm meter to 10 to the power 4 ohm meter. The best example, or mainly we use the materials for making semiconductors, these are silicon or germanium. Silicon or germanium. Especially the semiconductor elements, why we choose this Si or Ge, and that silicon or germanium, these are these type of elements are class 4 elements in a periodic table. Okay, class 4 elements means they have 4 electrons in their outer orbit of the atoms. So for making semiconductor, we choose the elements or the material which belongs from class 4 elements of the periodic table. That means they have 4 electrons in the outer orbit of the atom, and silicon and germanium both having the 4 electrons in their outer shell of the atom. Okay, but nowadays we use the compound semiconductor. These are the pure semiconductor, purely made up with a silicon, or purely it is made up with a germanium. But nowadays, to increase the conductivity, we use the compound semiconductors. Compound means mixture. Now, for example, indium phosphide, That means indium and phosphite is mixed together, gallium arsenide. But indium, phosphite, gallium arsenide, both all are the class 4 elements. Gallium or other class 4. That these things you have to remember, that whatever the material we choose for semiconductor, making semiconductor, they have 4 electrons in their outer cells. Depending upon this, the semiconductor are two types. One is a intrinsic semiconductor or pure semiconductor. Another one is a extrinsic semiconductor or impure semiconductor. Intrinsic or pure means there is no impurity atoms are there. Extrinsic or impure means in this type of semiconductor we use some impurity, but little bit amount of impurity atoms are present. That's why these are called impure semiconductor or extrinsic semiconductor. Let's start with the first type, that is intrinsic semiconductor. This is a gallium arsenide structure, compound microscope, gallium and arsenide. The little bit amount of arsenide we used, that is, so we can say that this is the extrinsic semiconductor. This is a extrinsic semiconductor. You also understand when we discuss the extrinsic semiconductor how we form this impure semiconductor. Gallium is of class 4 elements, but arsenide not the class 4 element. Either the arsenide is a pentavalent or the trivalent atom. Okay. This is a indium phosphide. The blue colors are the phosphide and the orange color is the indium. So here we added the as an impurity atom as a phosphide. That's why this is called indium phosphide. Clear? These two are, we can say that impure semiconductor, not the pure, because two types of material we use, gallium and arsenide, here indium and phosphide. That's why this is called compound semiconductor or the extrinsic semiconductor. So before we discuss the extrinsic or intrinsic semiconductor, first of all we have to understand the energy bands in solids. Energy bands means in solid there are two bands are there. One is a valence band, another one is a conduction band. Okay. Valence band means fully filled up with the electron, where the electrons are present. What happened inside the semiconductor? This is the structure, you see that in this figure. Here we use the silicon atoms. So silicon has last cell they have 4 free electrons, and these 4 free electrons, here we use 1 2 3 4 5 6 silicon atoms. As per the octet rule, each and every atom wants to fill up that octet rule. That means the outer cell 8 electrons are present. If it will happen, then that type of atoms are stable, not the unstable. This is a stable condition. Whenever they fully fill up with followed the octet rule, that type of materials or atoms are stable. So this Si atoms also wants that in a stable condition, wants that to fill up the octet rule, follow the octet rule. That's why each and every silicon atom share with 1 electron with the neighboring atom. In this figure you see that the first silicon has 4 electron, and its neighboring in right hand side and in below and the above in the left hand side also silicon is there, silicon atoms are present. Here I will draw few. Okay, few, that means 6 atoms I will draw here, or you can consider the middle one, first row middle one, silicon. So this middle one silicon has neighboring silicon in left side also, right side also, upper also, down also, and it has 4 electrons. And what happened, 1 electron from the neighboring atom, it will share to follow the octet rule, to complete the octet rule. That means if this middle one silicon is share 1 electron from the neighboring atoms, right side, left side, upper and down, then this 4 electrons also be there, and it has on 4 electrons, so 4 plus 4, 8 electrons is completed. That means this middle one atom is stable. Like this way, the all atoms share the 1 electron with the neighboring atoms, and these 2 electrons, first atom as it shared with a neighboring atom, so neighboring atom also share 1 electron from the first one. So these 2 electrons are formed by are formed a band or bond that is called covalent bond. That is called covalent bond. Okay, the 4 electrons in the outer shell of each Si atom form a covalent bond with the 1 electron of the neighboring atom. So you see that in this figure, the flower-like structure, this is called the covalent bond. And the electrons present inside the covalent bond, these are called valence electron. These are called valence electron. And where they are present, they will form a band. That type of band is called valence band. That's why we say that valence band means they are fully filled up with the electrons. So 8 electrons, each atom 8 electrons are there. And from this valence band, electron can excite it under certain conditions, and they will jump from the valence band and conduct the electricity. As we know that whenever the electrons move inside the material or the conductor, they will constitute the electron. So whenever these electrons jump, jump means they will break the covalent bond. They will break the covalent bond under certain conditions, and they will free from that bond. So they will jump from valence band to the another band that is called conduction band, and they will conduct the electricity. They will constitute the electric current. I hope it is clear now. Valence electrons, these electrons, those are inside the covalent bond, are called valence electron, and the band from where electrons can jump out moving into the conduction band when excited, that is called valence band. So we can say that what is that condition when they will jump? As we increase the temperature. As we increase the temperature, the electrons gain its thermal energy, and under a certain temperature, that is different for different semiconductor materials, they will get a maximum energy to break the covalent bond and move freely inside the crystal or inside the lattice. That means they will jump from valence band to conduction band. Okay, so the condition is mainly the temperature, and this value is at temperature 0 Kelvin temperature, the semiconductor behaves like an insulator. No free electrons are there, all are inside the covalent bond. As we increase the temperature from 0 Kelvin temperature, the electrons gain its energy, and under a certain temperature, they will break the covalent bond and move inside the lattice, and they will constitute the electric current. I hope it is clear now. So we can say that the valence band, it is fully filled up with the electron, but every electron has low energy. Every electron has low energy. They are not free, they are bound together by a covalent bond, but they are present, all are present inside the valence band. That's why valence band is fully filled up with the electrons, but they having lower energy. I hope it is clear now. Next one is a conduction band. Conduction band is a band of electron orbitals that electron can jump from valence band when excited. Whenever the electrons get sufficient energy to break the covalent bond, they will break the covalent bond, and that means they will jump from valence band to the conduction band and conduct the electricity or constitute the electric current. Because whenever they will break the covalent bond, that electrons are free. No bound is there, no boundary is there, no limitations are there. So they will move freely inside the lattice. That means move freely inside the lattice means they will jump from valence band to conduction band and they will constitute the electric current. So we can say that the conduction band has less amount of electrons because they will jump from the valence band, then they will reach the conduction towards the conduction band. So but whenever they reach the conduction band, they will constitute the electric current and they have high energy. They have high energy. So conduction band has higher energy level and valence band has a lower energy level. Okay, so when the electrons are in this orbitals, they have enough energy to move freely in the materials. This movement of electrons creates an electric current. I hope it is clear. The energy difference between the highest occupied energy state of the valence band and the lowest occupied state of the conduction band, lowest unoccupied state of the conduction band is called band gap. The gap between because the highest occupied energy means the electrons energy. The number of electrons is more in valence band than the conduction band. When they are excited, they will jump from valence band and reach to the conduction band. So conduction band is not fully occupied, unoccupied state. That's why this is called unoccupied, lowest unoccupied, and highest occupied energy state is valence band. And this energy gap between these two band, between the valence band and the conduction band, is called band gap. And whenever you draw the diagram, the valence band always draw at bottom and conduction band at above the valence band. Okay, and one main questions also come from this chapter or from this band gap. Using the energy band diagram, differentiate between conductor, insulator and the semiconductor. So in that case you have to draw the energy bands for each cases, for conductor also, for insulator also, and for semiconductor also. Okay. A large band gap means that a lot of energy is required to excite valence electron to the conduction band. Now this is the diagram. For first one is for metal, that means the conductor, second one for the semiconductor, and third one for the insulator. And the gap between these two band is called energy band gap. Okay, so in first case, that means in case of a conductor, you see that the gap between the conduction band and the valence band is 0. That means these two bands, valence band and the conduction bands, are overlapped each other. So if these two bands are overlap each other, it is easier for the electrons to, whenever they will excited, they will directly go to the conduction band without traveling any distance, without any loss of energy. Very less amount of, very less amount of, that means negligible less amount of energy is lost, because these two band are overlapped each other. That's why this portion is colored as a red color. Overlapped each other. So if overlapped each other, the electrons does not travel any distance. That means that distance means that band gap. So whenever they will travel the distance, they will lose their energy. But here, because these two bands are overlapped each other, so they easily reach to the conduction band and conduct the electricity. That's why we say that the conductor has lots of free electrons, because of this reason. The conductor or the metals has lots of free electrons. In case of an insulator, this gap is more compared to the semiconductor and the conductor. there is a range, also range is there. This energy band diagram, this energy band gap in case of an insulator, it is greater than 3 eV, electron volt, and this energy band gap is denoted by Eg, E suffix G, okay, capital E suffix small g, that Eg greater than 3 eV in case of an insulator, Eg equals to 0 in case of a conductor. So the semiconductor lies in between the conductor and the semiconductor. That means energy band gap in case of a semiconductor is greater than the 0 but less than the 3 eV. So you see that in this figure that there is a gap is present in between the two bands, but it is very less compared to the insulator. Compared to the conductor, there is a gap is there, but compared to the insulator, the gap is very less, and this range is greater than 0 but less than 3 eV. And in case of an insulator, this gap is greater than 3 eV. That's why whenever electrons get excited and they will travel this distance, that means in a band gap this distance, to before they will reach the conduction band, they will lost all their energy. They will not reach to the conduction band, up to the conduction band. That's why the insulator does not conduct the electricity. I hope it is understand. This diagram you draw in case whenever the in exam, if that questions is come. Okay, and this gap is maintained by this Fermi level. Okay, in higher studies you also studies this Fermi energy, Fermi level, that low energy, they will gain the energy, they will cross this line, that is called Fermi level. That Fermi level is lies in between the conduction band and the valence band. They have to cross this Fermi level whenever they will reach the conduction band. Okay, so what is Fermi level? I will mention it is over there, but it is not included in your syllabus. Okay, the highest energy level that an electron can occupy at the absolute zero temperature is known as the Fermi level. The highest energy level at 0 Kelvin temperature, whatever they will occupy, that is called Fermi level. The Fermi level lies between the valence band and the conduction band, because at absolute zero temperature the electrons all are lie in the lowest energy state, that means inside the valence band. Due to the lack of sufficient energy at 0 Kelvin, the Fermi level can be considered as a sea of fermions. Fermions means electrons, above which no electrons exist, because above the Fermi level, that means in the conduction band no energy is there at 0 Kelvin temperature. After whenever we increase the temperature, they will get sufficient energy and they will cross the Fermi level and reach to the conduction band and constitute the electric current. The Fermi level changes as the solid are warmed and as electrons are added to or withdrawn from the solid. Okay, so this is all about the energy bands. I hope it is clear now. If you have any questions, then you can ask me anytime. Okay, now we discuss intrinsic semiconductor. We already discussed semiconductor are two types, extrinsic and intrinsic. So now we discuss the intrinsic semiconductor. Intrinsic semiconductor means pure semiconductor. Okay, so this is the diagram for intrinsic semiconductor. Here I will use the silicon crystal. Okay, so why it is called intrinsic? Because here the all atoms are the silicon atoms. No another atoms are present like indium phosphide, gallium arsenide. Okay, that's why this type of semiconductor are called intrinsic semiconductor or the pure semiconductor. And already we discussed the valence electron covalent bond. So what happened in this type of intrinsic semiconductor, whenever we increase the temperature from 0 Kelvin, the electrons get sufficient energy to break the covalent bond and move inside the lattice. Here in this figure I will show that from the 1 electrons it will break the covalent bond and they will move inside the lattice as a free electrons. So whenever the electrons are move or leave their space, there is a one crisis of electrons is created, because they are at 0 Kelvin temperature, they will at stable condition of, or fully followed by the octet rule, 8 electrons are present. So if one electrons move or break the covalent bond, that means there is a one crisis. That place is, whenever electrons is removed, so that one is converted to positive. Okay, so in this cases, in this semiconductor, whenever electrons break the covalent bond, so there is a crisis of electrons is created, that is called holes, and the charge of this holes is positive. As we already know, if one from one ion, if in electrons remove, okay, that ion is converted to positive ion, and where the electrons are added, they will convert it to negative ion. So in this case, whenever electrons move from its place, their holes are created, and these holes are called, these holes has the positive charges. And whenever they will move from the covalent bond, move inside the lattice, these are called the free electrons. So whenever they will break the covalent bond and move freely inside a lattice, due to that crisis, to follow the octet rule, then from the neighboring one atom of the silicon, that electron also can gain energy and fill up that holes, try to go to fill up that holes. Okay, but whenever that electron go and fill up the hole, so another one hole also created in that atom. Like this way, if one electron is moved, one hole is created. So we can say that the number of free electrons and number of holes are same in this case of in case of a intrinsic semiconductor. So we can because the number of concentration of electrons and the concentration of holes are same in extensive semiconductor. So here, whatever the current we get, that is very small amount of current, because one, due to one free electrons is there, then another one, that free electrons fill up the another one hole, then only one electron or another free electrons we get. So the number of holes and the electrons are same. N equals to P. N represent the number of electrons and P represent the number of holes. So they are also termed as undoped semiconductors. What is doped, you understand in case of extensive semiconductor. So you just have to remember, in intrinsic semiconductor, the number of or the concentration of holes and concentration of electrons are equal to each other. So whatever the current they will constitute, that is very less, very less amount of current we get. Silicon pure, because we use the pure crystal of silicon, pure crystal of germanium, no another impurity atoms are there. These are the example of the extrinsic semiconductor. Okay, here I will explain the working mechanism also, and I will write it here also using their you know, the in chemistry also how to break the atomic number. Si has 14 and G is 32, and each case you see that the last orbit has 4 electrons. Last orbit has 4 electrons. Okay, and these are the mechanism. In E equals to NH, that is the concentration of electron is equal to the concentration of holes, or number of electrons is equal to the number of holes. Here I will explain all these things, whatever I will just now I will explain, that is I will write in a sentence. Okay, so this is the mechanism of working principle of the intrinsic semiconductor. Next, extrinsic semiconductor. Extrinsic semiconductor are impure. Why it is called impure semiconductor? Because in this type of semiconductor, we added some impurity atoms at a very small amount. At a very small portion of the crystal, we added this impurity atoms. And this process to added the impurity atom, this is called doping process. So in case of our intrinsic semiconductor, we get very less amount of electric current. To increase the conductivity of the semiconductor, if we add any impurity atom to the intrinsic semiconductor, one part of an intrinsic semiconductor, so that process to added the impurity atom, these are called doping process. And due to that doping process, the intrinsic semiconductor is not now, it is not a pure semiconductor because impurity atoms are present, so it will convert it to the extrinsic semiconductor or impure semiconductor, because we want to increase its conductivity. Okay, so this process is called doping process, and the atoms, impurity atoms, what we use as a impurity atoms, okay, what we added over there, in that are called dopants. That impurity atoms are called dopants, and the process is called doping process. Okay, the impurity modifies the electrical property of the semiconductor and make it more suitable for electronic device. The dopant added to the material is chosen such that the original lattice of the pure semiconductor is not distorted. Like this way, because the pure semiconductor, the Si or germanium, they has 4 electrons already. They have the 4 electrons at the at their outer shell. So we choose the dopant, or we added the dopant in such a way that the semiconductor is not distorted. So which type of impurity atoms we choose? Either less than 4, whatever the atoms we choose, they having either 3 electrons in their outer shell or the 5 electrons in their outer shell. So if we choose that type of atoms, they will not they will add it very suitably, and they will not distorted the semiconductor. Also, the dopants occupy only a few of the site in the crystal, not the each and every atom. Not we cannot use the doping process. Only a one smallest part of the semiconductor we doped the dopants. And it is necessary that the size of the dopant is equal to the size of the semiconductor atoms. Otherwise, how they will dope over the that atom? Already those are present. Okay, so in this case, we choose that type of atoms which having 3 electrons in their outer shell or the 5 electrons in their outer shells. So if 3 electrons is there, that atoms are called trivalent atom. If 5 electrons are there, it is called pentavalent atom. As an example, trivalent example is boron, indium, aluminium, okay, and pentavalent arsenic, antimony, phosphorus, okay. And combining this, we get the indium phosphorus, the gallium arsenide. That's why we see that compound semiconductor is nothing but the example of extrinsic semiconductor. The reason behind using these dopants is it is similar size atom as the pure semiconductor. Both silicon and germanium atom belong to the 4th group of the periodic table. Hence, the choice of dopants from 3rd and 5th group is more viable. It's more suitable. These dopants give rise to 2 types of semiconductors. You see that if we use the trivalent atom, so 3 electrons are there, and the pure semiconductor has the 4 electrons, silicon or germanium. So 3 electrons are combined together, one place is empty. So one place is empty, that means that will be the hole. So in each phase of the crystal, if we added the impurity atom, so in each phase at a 0 Kelvin temperature, we get one extra hole, or we can say that one extra positive charge is already present. One crisis of electrons already present inside the semiconductor. So because we can say that in this case, whenever we use the trivalent atom, we get the number of holes is greater than the number of electrons, because already the holes are present. After whenever we increase the temperature, one electron break the covalent bond and fill up that fill up that hole, so already another holes also created. So number of holes is always greater than the number of electrons. Number of holes is greater than the number of electron if we use the trivalent atom. So if number of holes is greater, that means the positive ions are greater, maximum positive ions are present there. That semiconductor is a positive ions, charge is positive, that is called p-type semiconductor. So p-type semiconductor is doped by a trivalent atom, and this type of semiconductor we get the concentration of holes, or the number of holes is greater than the number of electrons. That's why the semiconductor charge of the semiconductor is positive. But if we doped with a pentavalent atom, that means 5, valency is 5. So what happened? The 4 electrons are combined together, one extra free electrons is there, and that electron move inside the lattice at 0 Kelvin temperature. So in each phase, if we added the little bit amount of pentavalent atom in each phase, so in each phase we get extra electrons. So if electrons is extra, that means the charge of the semiconductor is negative. That type of semiconductor is called n-type semiconductor, and n-type means negative. N represent negative because electrons is there. So we can say that in that case, the n-type semiconductor, the number of electrons is greater than the number of holes, or the concentration of electrons greater than the concentration of holes. Okay, so in one case we get the whole number of holes is more, and another one case we get the number of electrons is more. So that's why extrinsic semiconductor are two types depending upon their doping process. Okay, one is a positive semiconductor or p-type semiconductor, another one is a n-type or negative semiconductor. This is the diagram for p-type and n-type. In p-type you see that the red color is there, the holes is already present. That means this hole is called acceptor impurity. That means whenever we combine one p-type or one n-type atom together, the p-type has a capacity to accept one electron from the n-type semiconductor, and this n-type electrons is called donor because it has a extra electrons is there already there at 0 Kelvin temperature. So it is easily donate to the p-type semiconductor. That's why in case of n-type, that extra electron is called donor impurity electrons, and in case of a p-type, that holes is called acceptor impurity. Impurity creates a hole. Okay, here we dope the boron, and here we dope the Pb. This is the two types of extrinsic semiconductor. So the p-type semiconductor can be defined as once the trivalent impurity atoms such as indium, gallium are added to the intrinsic semiconductor, and then it is known as a p-type semiconductor. In this semiconductor, the majority charge carriers are holes, whereas minority charge carriers are electrons. Because number of electrons is less, so whose number is less, that is called minority charge, and whose number is more, that is called majority charge carriers. In case of a p-type semiconductor, the majority carriers are holes and the minority carriers are electrons. The holes density is higher than the electron density. The accepts level mainly lies near the valence band. Later I will also explain this with the energy band diagram. This is the diagram for hole, that in the middle you see that the one crisis of electrons is clear, that is called void, are the holes. These are the covalent bond, valence electrons, silicon. Okay, inside the silicon, in one part we doped a boron, that trivalent atom. N-type semiconductor can be defined as once the pentavalent impurity atoms such as Sb, arsenic is added to an intrinsic semiconductor, and then it is known as an N-type semiconductor. In this semiconductor, the majority charge carriers are electrons because number of electrons is more than the holes, and the minority charge carriers are holes. The electrons density is higher than the density of the holes. So the donor level, so from where the electrons can donate, that will lies near the conduction band. In case of a p-type, the acceptor level from where they will accept the electron that will lie inside near the valence band, and in case of a n-type, the donor level lies near the conduction band. Later I will also draw the diagram with energy band diagram for in case of a p-type and n-type also, then you can understand this donor level and the acceptor level. Donor level means donate the electrons, acceptor means accept the electrons. This is the n-type semiconductor. The extra electrons is there, fifth valence electron, free electrons is there. This is the difference between p-type and n-type semiconductor. So you understand what is the difference between them. This is the difference. Sometimes it will also come that write down 4 or 5 difference in between the p and n junction. P-type and the n-type semiconductor. Okay. So this all about the semiconductor and their types. And the next video I will explain the semiconductor diode or PN junction diode, and related to that we also studied potential barrier, depletion region, some diagram also be there. I hope in this portion up to this p-type and n-type this is clear, extrinsic, intrinsic semiconductor. If you have any problem, this is completely new topic. This is completely new topic and very easy topic. I hope it is clear. If you have any kind of problem, please write in a comment box. I will surely I will try to clear your doubts, whatever your questions. Okay, have a nice day. Tata.